Okay, so you probably remember when Mel B and Eddie Murphy had that messy fight over their baby, Angel, especially when Eddie publicly denied he was the father, right?
You visibly recoiled when you heard Eddie Murphy again say those words in that interview, which were very hurtful, whatever the circumstances.
Well, of course, it's not a nice thing to hear. We were both to blame. I wouldn't have said that publicly, and he apologizes to this day about that, because that baby was planned. We planned that baby together, and we were madly in love. And it just went wrong.
It took over 10 years for Eddie Murphy to finally acknowledge that Angel, Mel B's child, was actually his. By the time he accepted the truth, it seemed like he was trying to make up for the years he missed. At first, it looked like Eddie was ready to step up and be more present in Angel's life. But now that Angel is 18, things haven't gotten better, they've only become more complicated. According to sources close to the family, Eddie never truly embraced Angel, especially after Angel made the brave decision to transition. And sadly, that has only made their relationship even more distant. Let's rewind to where it all began. A lot of people didn't even know Eddie and Mel B were a couple until after she got pregnant. When the news broke, instead of celebrating the pregnancy, Eddie pulled away and started acting cold. Even though Mel always claimed that they had a serious, loving relationship, Eddie's team released a statement making it seem like their time together was short and casual. They denied any real plans for a future and made it clear that he didn't expect a child from the relationship. While he did end up paying child support and covering pregnancy-related costs, the way he handled it made many question his character. Some people even accused Mel B of trying to trap Eddie for financial gain. But let's be honest, Mel was already wealthy and successful. She was one of the Spice Girls, part of one of the most iconic girl groups in history. She didn't need Eddie Murphy's money. In her book Brutally Honest, Mel described their first meeting as electric. She said it felt like fate brought them together. Their romance moved fast, and they were inseparable. They even went so far as to get matching tattoos of each other's autographs on their thighs. Mel believed it was real love, and so did Eddie, at least at first. He even met her father and asked for permission to marry her. That's not something you do in a casual fling. According to Mel, Eddie was the one who brought up the idea of having a baby. She already had a child and wasn't planning on having another one at that point. But Eddie talked her into it. And honestly, it didn't seem out of character. By the time he and Mel got together, he already had 7 kids. Wanting an 8th child didn't seem strange for someone who clearly enjoyed being a father, at least on the surface. When Mel found out she was pregnant, Eddie was the first person she told. They laughed and cried together, excited for what was to come. But not long after, everything changed. Mel said Eddie started acting completely different once she got pregnant. He became controlling, paranoid, and obsessed with keeping her locked away for safety. She couldn't go out freely, and the joyful relationship she once had turned into a lonely, suffocating experience. It felt like she was trapped, living under strict rules and constant watch. Even then, Mel hoped it would get better after the baby was born. But that hope vanished during a public interview Eddie did while she was still pregnant. A reporter asked him if he was excited to become a father again. Instead of giving a loving answer, Eddie said, "I don't know whose child that is until it comes out and has a blood test." His words were cold, dismissive, and deeply painful. Imagine carrying a baby with someone you thought loved you, only to hear them question the child's paternity in front of the world. Fans were shocked. Everyone believed Eddie and Mel were doing great, so his response came out of nowhere. Back at home, Mel was heartbroken. She packed up her things and left his house. Despite everything, she continued to defend herself, saying the baby was definitely his and that they had planned it together. Looking back, this moment changed everything. The trust was broken, and their relationship was damaged beyond repair. Even though Eddie would later accept the truth after a paternity test, the emotional damage had already been done. And sadly, it seems that the pain didn't stop there. As Angel grew older and began living her truth, Eddie struggled to show support. What should have been a story of growth and healing turned into a tale of distance, misunderstanding, and a father who just couldn't show up in the way his child needed most.
Did you ever think possibly of not having a baby?
Absolutely not. This is a planned baby. This is something that we both sat down. Yeah, we both sat down and we discussed it. Listen, I have an 8-year-old. I'm not about to just have a baby by accident. I'm a very responsible parent. We both sat down and planned it, and yeah.
But you didn't plan to be married?
Yeah, we didn't make set-in-stone plans to be married, but that we definitely spoke about it. And that was, yeah, one of the things.
Were you in love with him?
Yeah.
Why would you have a baby with somebody if you're not in love with them?
For months after Mel B announced her pregnancy, she gave birth to a baby girl named Angel Murphy Brown. The birth took place on Eddie Murphy's birthday, but instead of being a joyful celebration, things turned legal fast. Mel B filed a paternity lawsuit against Eddie because he publicly questioned whether the child was really his. That moment alone created a cloud of pain and tension that would linger for years. Now imagine being born into the world knowing your father didn't believe you were his and then watched him battle your mother in court just to avoid taking responsibility. That's the kind of emotional wound that doesn't just go away. Eventually, the DNA results confirmed that Eddie was, in fact, Angel's biological father. After the court ruling, he was ordered to pay child support as well as cover the medical costs from Mel's pregnancy. But even after the case was closed, Eddie kept his distance. According to him, the whole situation caught him off guard. He felt blindsided and claimed that Mel tricked him. Their relationship, already strained, became even more toxic. Things reportedly got so tense that Eddie's ex-wife, Nicole Murphy, had to get involved just to help ease the conflict between him and Mel. Nicole apparently stepped in as a mediator to help both sides reach some kind of peace. Despite the legal win for Mel and the confirmation that Angel was his daughter, Eddie made it clear that he wanted nothing more to do with Mel, and by extension, very little to do with Angel. He disconnected completely. Mel later shared that Angel, during her younger years, believed that Mel's ex-husband, Stephen Belafonte, was actually her dad. That's how far removed Eddie was from her early life. It wasn't until Angel hit her teenage years that Eddie tried to build a bond with her. But by then, too much time had passed. Angel had already gotten used to life without her biological father. Their attempts to reconnect came at a time when Angel was already going through something deeply personal. She was starting her transition from female to male. And that shift added more tension to their fragile connection. According to close sources, Eddie struggled to accept Angel's transition. People around the family said it took him a long time to even acknowledge the situation, let alone embrace it. That made things harder for Angel, who was just looking for love and support from her father. What made the situation even more uncomfortable was Eddie's past. Back in 1997, he was famously stopped by the police in Los Angeles with a trans woman named Shalimar in his car. He claimed he was only giving her a ride, but the media turned it into a huge scandal. The story was everywhere, and Eddie was publicly shamed. Now, fast forward to the present, his own child comes out as transgender, and he struggles to support them. That kind of contradiction didn't sit right with a lot of people. Angel reportedly found it hard to understand how her father could once be involved in such a public scandal involving a trans person and yet still find it so difficult to accept his own child for who they are. It's the kind of pain that digs deep. She wasn't just dealing with rejection, she was dealing with hypocrisy. With all of this coming out now, people have started calling Eddie out for how he treated Angel throughout the years. Many are disappointed that he couldn't look past his own pride or beliefs to support his child. Being a parent is about showing up, loving unconditionally, and putting ego aside. Sadly, it seems like Eddie struggled with all of that when it came to Angel. And it's not just about the early denial. It's the years of absence, the silence during big moments, the emotional gap that never really closed. Some folks on social media are saying they'll never forget how he denied Mel B's child. Others are pointing out the irony of him having a trans child after being involved in a scandal with a trans woman decades ago. Now Eddie Murphy has to live with how things played out. And Angel? They're moving forward, living life on their own terms, even if their father never fully showed up for them. This story isn't just about a celebrity scandal, it's about what happens when people fail to take responsibility, when pride gets in the way of love, and when a child is left to pick up the pieces.